for introducing a new concept, everything we've done before up to this point in the lesson has been review. The first thing I do to make sure I'm up to speed is make sure I'm reading those instructional notes. Mention that to your team again and again and again as you're going through this, because without it, you can get really tangled. The language is going to be very explicit, and it's ideal that we're reading and using that script in order to help us really unpack what the learning is in a succinct and explicit way. The other thing, so just a note on that, don't feel like you're ever going to be dinged if you're reading from the script. In fact, that is a strong instructional practice for explicit phonics, especially until you get it so solid in your brain that you can do it at a dinner party, and then you'll be tons of fun for everybody. So the other thing that's really helpful that I'm going to look at right now is this little lesson plan cheat sheet, the new concept part of it, step 5. So the procedure is fairly simple. I'm going to use the slide deck to help me explain what is in the script. So you're kind of making a little mini TED Talk here. The instructional language, again, the closer you can get to the script, the better, until you really internalize the verbiage. The things that kids are going to need, they're going to want a paper and a pencil. So that sounded funny in my head, but they want paper and pencil. It's ideal to use pencil, especially until letter formation becomes really, really solid and locked in. So if they're still writing in print from kindergarten through middle of second grade, that's fine. And if they're in middle of second grade and on, then we're using that cursive to help us. So, and we'd be using our instructional language from the Adams 12 aligned instructional language. That is also going to be in the links, just in case you're curious as to where that lives. The last thing, you're going to want to have some form of your little individual sound wall. That individual sound wall is really, really, really important for you to consistently write down what is the sound, and then how do they actually spell that sound, because then they can take this back to their desk, and as they're working, if they're sitting there trying to figure out how to spell something, they can go to the sound, and just be like, oh, that's SH, and then they can find it there. So it's a bit of a shift from the letter chart. Let's go ahead and let's just do this lesson together. Ready? So I'm going right here to the script, and it's right here after the blending drill, so on the slide deck. I'm going to go into the first slide, and I'm going to just start with the script here. A consonant digraph is when two consonants come together to make one sound. Hand gestures are great for that. You have already learned about a consonant digraph. What was the digraph we learned? And likely the kids will say, digraph CK. We have talked about CK. When C and K are together, at the end of a word, they make one sound. And then hopefully the kids will say, K. If not, I can supply the sound. I'm very much paying attention to how the kids are saying the sounds. If they're not saying them correctly, I have to really jump in there. The two consonants, S and H, have their own sounds, S and H. But when these consonants come together in words, they make one new sound, sh. Like at the beginning of the word, sheep. So notice how I'm saying the sounds, not just the letters. So back here, I wasn't going and saying, the sound S. I'm saying the sound S. The H makes the H sound, that kind of thing. So from there, I'm back onto my script. The consonant digraph SH can come at the beginning of a word, such as ship, echo, the kids are echoing, or shop, and the kids are echoing, or it can come at the end of a word, like in the word fish. Kids are echoing, or at the end of the word wish. It's okay to elongate the new sound so they can really hear it. And it's okay to have the kids echoing you as you're doing this. To make this sh sound, put your teeth together and round your lips like this. Shh, shh. Pull your tongue back toward the back of your mouth. Shh. So it's kind of hard to see, but you can kind of model. Pull the tongue back just a little bit so they can see it. Make sure your voice is off. Shh. This is a quiet sound. If they're not getting that voice off and they can't feel like the non-vibration of their vocal cords, then you could have them voice it. Zh, zh. And kind of contrast the two if they're getting stuck there. The sh sound is a continuous sound that can be stretched out really long. So I'm using that hand motion. I can stretch out the sh sound so they can really see it's going long. I'm really intentional to show, I'm reversing this so it looks like I'm going in the right way that we would read it. Shh. But for me, it's backwards. So you have to make sure that it is going the way that the kids would read the word. So you have to reverse it in your mind as you're modeling that, stretching out the shh. Because if I were to do it right side, like if I were to do it the way I see it when I'm reading as I'm sitting here looking at you, it would look like this and it would look backwards. So you want to make sure you're going shh as you're stretching it out. So you try. Ready? Shh. Shh. Just like that. Now is when, if I have a sound wall on my board, and we have posters for these, or you can make your own from the UFLI materials. The sound wall here is really great. The pictures are really concise, and they align really closely with what we have in Benchmark. And Benchmark's a little bit confusing because there's multiple keywords for some of the letter sounds. So we're just using these one keywords for those sounds. You can still use the Benchmark Advanced keyword and letter sounds as you're teaching Tier 1. It's not going to make a difference. So now what you're going to do is I'm going to write, if they have an individual sound wall like this, where we have our consonants and our vowels, I'm going to write right underneath there what the grapheme is. Doop, doop. And now they have that as a resource. So as we learn multiple ways to spell some of these sounds, they're going to know all the ways to spell them right there. And they'll just keep adding to them across the lesson. Now, the sound walls, we'll get more into how this is organized in future learning. Right away, I'm going to pull out for letter formation, I'm going to pull out my instructional guidance. So by the way, there we are. We're adding that little grapheme card to the sound wall, so the letters go right underneath it so the kids can use it for spelling. So now when we get into letter formation, I kind of got the horse before the cart there, sorry about that. With letter formation, I'm going to explicitly model. In kindergarten through middle of the year, second grade, I'm going to use print. Second grade and on, I'm going to use cursive. It sounds silly to move on to cursive if we haven't established print, but the reason why cursive is really powerful is because there's only 4 starting strokes. They all start on the line, and it's also used for treatment for things like dysgraphia, especially when kids could not form print letters. We can often just start teaching them cursive, and they will do it better. Plus, it looks fancy. They're going to be the envy of the classroom if they have that beautiful cursive, which they often will from this type of learning. So I'm going to use the instructional language from the Adams 12 cursive instructional language that we sent out via Schoology. So make sure you find that in those Schoology announcements, and it will be in the Benchmark resources under handwriting. You can just click it and see what the verbiage is for how to explain the letters. So I'm going to show, this is just showing like a piece of paper, but if I'm sitting in a small group, I'll have my little paper. Whatever paper the kids are using for for writing in general is the same paper I'm using for handwriting. I'm going to model that letter formation using that instructional language from the Adams 12 aligned instructional language for handwriting. That way they're not hearing one thing from me, another thing from a special educator, and another thing in the next grade. So it's all going to be the exact same across K-5. Next little bit is now we're going to say, watch me read some words. Shed. So if the kids are able just to kind of elongate the sounds and blend it together, like in shed, and then they can go shed and just unitize it, great. If they need more blending, I can now model blending, like sh, d. What's the word? Shed. The kids can also, I can also model sounding it out depending on what the kids need. So it might be sh, d, shed, just like that. Now it's going to be a few we do's. So the first page is going to be easier words where we're reading it together, kind of chorally, guided practice. And then the second page is going to be the funner. It's going to be the more interesting, more complex words. You can always jump to the more complex ones if they're ready for that. So we're all reading together, shelf, just like that. Now I'm going to model spelling. When I go to model spelling, it is really helpful to use some form of a visual counter so that they can see that. Now, these blocks I have right here, they have like a magnet on the end of a block, but you could just use even just magnets themselves, anything that you can kind of hold up and just show the kids. I'm just using these because this is what I have. I'm not really distinguishing between consonants and vowels here. It's just each block is a sound. You can also use like an L Conan structure with the little boxes and just touch each little box for the sounds. So what it would look like is to practice it is I'm going to spell the word ship. Everybody echo, ship. Okay, the sounds I hear are sh, I, p. Now I'm going to touch and spell S-H-I-P. Now I'm going to name and write S-H-I-P. And if I'm using cursive, I'm going to model it there in cursive. S-H-I-P. Now I'm going to have the kids check it. So they're going to say ship, and I'm going to say, oh, do we have all our sounds? Yep, we do. All right, next one. So then the kids, all they would need at their little desk could just be counters. They could be those like math cubes, work great as counters, just anything that you can just physically show the different sounds. Now, when the kids go do it, and I'm no longer doing the we do, the kids are still just on their normal classroom handwriting paper. I'm sorry, not handwriting, just classroom writing paper. Handwriting paper isn't a thing. Just use the classroom paper. So ready? I'm going to say echo the word shit. Oh, wait, we already did. Oh, I'm getting ahead of myself. Echo the word shock. And the kids say shock. And I'm going to say, all right, what's the sounds? Sh, ah, k, just like that. Once they echo all of those sounds, now they can write it. Or I'm sorry, they're going to touch and spell. S-H-O-C-K. See how CK is just one sound, so it only gets one block. And then they're going to write it. S-H-O-C-K. Notice how I'm spelling it with the letter names as I write them and as I touch them. It's very important. Our letter names are the stable feature of a letter. They don't change, like how font size and all kinds of like bolded, non-bolded, italicized, all the other things change. Even the letter sounds change. The letter name stays the same. So if we're saying SH, we're saying sh, I'm going to say digraph SH or just SH if that's how you're teaching it. Okay? So it's very important. Have them say the name as they're writing it. It'll really pay off in the future. Now, if you get one like brush, make sure you are separating out the sounds. B. Or ready? Let's just do it. Ready? Echo brush. B, r, sh, b, r, sh. Touch and spell. B, R, U, S, H. Name and write. B, R, U, S, H. Just like that. Now that we are done with that bit, we get to check it off, and it's just going to check itself off on the slide, and you get a little celebration. We're done. Woohoo! Okay, your turn. You might need to run back to your room to go ahead and grab just some type of manipulative. If you don't want to do that and the time is running tight, just grab a sticky note and do it that way. All right, I hope you have some fun. This is going to be really good. And oh, by the way, just so you know, the review on the second day, all you're doing is re-saying the script. It's just a very brief review. That's all it is. Make sure you mention that to your team. All right, so you kind of have a lot of jobs here. This is the hardest section of the whole lesson plan. You got this, though. You can do it. Have fun.